Yeah, I saw that going differently too. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Time Voice YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mike Walsh, and it is currently May 7th, and second round of the NBA and NHL playoffs are currently underway with teams fighting for championships, and both the Boston Celtics and Boston Bruins are sitting on their couches at home watching it going on, having both been eliminated in the first round in somewhat familiar yet hard to swallow circumstances. Because you see, there's something going on Causeway Street where TD Garden, for decades, this patch of dirt in the West End, was the most feared destination in professional sports, whether it was the parquet floor or the spoked V on the ice. Coming to Boston meant one thing: the away team was going to have a problem. But lately, especially this season, where both the Celtics and the Bruins came away with a combined 1-6 record at home in the postseason, the script has flipped on Causeway Street, where the city of champions and its home to hallowed teams has become a house of horrors for the boys in green and black and gold. And today we're going to be talking about why, for some reason, the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins have failed to defend their home turf when it matters most in the postseason. Now let's start with the team who's actually won the most recent championship, believe it or not, in the city of Boston, the Boston Celtics, having won the 2024 NBA championship, a year where they went 9-2 in the postseason at home, which is unbelievable, really, considering on what other teams did throughout that time. But for the Boston Celtics, it wasn't really, a consistent part. That was really a flash in the pan, if you will. Let's go back to the 2022 NBA Finals. The Celtics, on a miracle run, matched up with the Golden State Warriors and had a 2-1 series lead heading into Game 4, looking to put a stranglehold on the series and get closer to banner number 18. Newsflash, they completely crapped the bed and never win a single game left in the series, losing Game 4 at home, Game 5 in Golden State, and then Game 6 back at home to give the Golden State Warriors their fourth championship. The following year, the Celtics had the best record in the NBA, add some pieces around Tatum and Brown, and we're on the precipice of a miraculous 0-3 comeback, having won Game 6 in Miami thanks to a Derek White buzzer beater, and came home for Game 7 looking to complete the comeback. Instead, posting a shooting performance that was as cold as the blizzard of 78 here in Massachusetts, the Celtics end with the whimper and lose Game 7 at home to the Miami Heat, who ended up going to the NBA Finals. So to look back at their last 6 playoff appearances, the Celtics 2022 6-6 lost in the NBA Finals, 2023 5-6 lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. 2024 was the flash in the pan, like I said, 9-2 record home NBA champions. Last year, 4-2, but lost in the second round. Those 2 losses came in back-to-back games in the second round, games 1 and 2, to the New York Knicks. And then this year, 1-3, blowing a 3-1 lead to the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round. So you take out that NBA championship run, that's a 16-17 record at TD Garden since 2022. And even if you add that, that's just above 500, 25-19 for the boys in green. More specifically, if you want to look at the team since Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown arrived, they have a 629 winning percentage, 44-26 at home in the playoffs. Not bad, really, but like I said, if you crunch that down to season by season, it doesn't look good. Especially looking at the fact that if you look at the previous eras of the team, the Big Three era of Pierce, Allen, and Garnett had a 34-13 that's above 700 winning percentage, 723 to be exact, and the Bird, McHale, and Parrish era at the old Boston Garden, which was 774, 72, and 21, it pales in comparison to their legendary predecessors. Then you go across the sheet on the ice to the Boston Bruins. Now, ever since that 2019 Stanley Cup Final Game 7 loss to the St. Louis Blues at home, it started a downward spiral for the Bees on home ice. Let's go back to 2023. Greatest regular season, 65 wins, 135 points, a juggernaut. Florida Panthers in the first round. You've got a 3-1 series lead. Brad Marchand on a breakaway at the end of regulation with the game on his stick, shoots saved by Bobrovsky. Game 5, overtime loss. Game 6, loss in Florida. Game 7, down 2-0, came back, win 3-2, give up a tying goal with under 2 minutes left, lose in overtime, and so ends the greatest season in Boston Bruins history with a whimper and blowing a 3-1 series deficit. Next year, they made it past the first round, but not without consequences, as they almost blew another 3-1 lead in consecutive seasons, but David Pastrnak bailed them out with a Game 7 overtime winner against Toronto. But that year, they were still 2-4 and lost to Florida in the second round. And then last year, missed the playoffs before this season, not winning a single game against the Buffalo Sabres. That, in the last 4 years, is a 3-10 home playoff record. That's a .231 winning percentage, including 6 straight home playoff losses. Now, this really puts it in perspective. Since 2021 to 2025, the league-wide winning percentage at home in the NBA is .584. League-wide winning percentage at home in the NHL, .652. The Bruins and Celtics combined home playoff record in that time frame, 31-29, barely above .500 at home in the postseason. So you have to ask yourself, what the heck has happened at TD Garden to allow such a downward spiral to the two most storied franchises in Boston? In my humble opinion, you can debate that if you want in the comments below. Well, let's look at some of the factors. Now, in some cities, you might consider a playoff berth and maybe win a series or two as a good season, then we just move on. But there's a reason why there's so many championship banners hanging in TD Garden. That good isn't good enough. If the minute it goes sideways, the fans can turn on this team. Like, for example, I was happy to be able to get tickets to go to Game 6 against the Buffalo Sabres this year for the Boston Bruins. And let me tell you, the difference between the end of the first period where the Bruins were down 2-0, where everybody was booing the Bruins off the ice, and you could hear a pin drop in it after they got off the ice, and 2-1 at the end of the second, when everyone's like, oh my God, we have hope, is completely different. You can feel it. The weight of the banners, the weight of the ghost of the history of both these franchises. The players feel it and the fans feel it. The other thing, like I said, I was lucky enough because ticket prices are outrageous for playoff games. And as prices skyrocket, you remember the old Boston Garden. Bill Walton had a great quote. He said, Celtics fans back in the old days, they used to bring their tennis shoes and jeans and t-shirts. Why? Because they thought they might actually get a chance to get in the game at some point. You price those people off, it becomes more of a corporate crowd, and the energy becomes more corporate and more silent, wait for something to happen in order to get them jolted up. That can't happen in playoff time. The other thing is, are away teams even scared to come into this building anymore? I mean, the Sixers came back from a 3-1 deficit, having won 2 of the last 3 games on the Celtics home court, and the Bruins, the home ice advantage was non-existent. Both of the games that they won in that series were on the road, and Buffalo came in, including Game 4, where they absolutely blew the Bruins. See, I can't even talk. They're getting me so mad. Absolutely blew the Bruins out of the water in Game 4, and then completely controlled the pace, and the scoreboard wasn't even indicative of how bad they were dealing with the Bruins off the ice. The Bruins and Celtics need to make a change. What is their mentality? Because it's clear the pressure is on them. Let's go back to the championship teams. 2008, the Celtics had 1 loss in the postseason on their way to that 2008 NBA championship. The Bruins, they lost the first 2 games against the Montreal Canadiens, and then Game 1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's 3 losses. That's it. Over 4 rounds. They didn't lose to the Philadelphia Flyers on home ice, won games 3 and 4. They didn't lose another game to the Montreal Canadiens, won games 5 and 7. They only lost 1 game on home ice to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 1, won every single home game since then. And the Stanley Cup final against the Vancouver Canucks, didn't lose a single game at home and outscored them badly in all 3 home games. So it's clear being a house of horror is a choice. It's clear the talent's there. Now, I would say the Bruins, the coaching was there, absolutely. I don't know about on the Celtics side because at a certain point, can we stop chucking up threes and drive to the basket for God's sakes? But until that pressure and that sort of horror-filled nightmare that these players seem to have can get out of their system, all those championship banners are going to be one place in the past. And there was a bit of news that came out recently that caught my eye. You'll notice that I am currently wearing my Boston Fleet jersey because the Boston Fleet are currently in the Walter Cup playoffs and are in the semifinals against the Ottawa Charge. Now, they did lose a home game, game 2, and are going on the road. It's a best of 5, so they have to win 2 more games, but it's hard to win 2 straight games on the road. So more than likely, they're coming back to the Tsongas Center in Lowell for a decisive game 5. Now, I could be wrong, but that looks like the case. And let me tell you, as a UMass Lowell hockey fan, the last few years, Tsongas Center is not a home ice advantage. It's its own personal house of horror. So they're going to have to shake that as well. But some of them, and some people in the press, and some people in the fan base, and some even the players are talking about, why don't we move, if they make it past this round, the Walter Cup finals, why don't we move them to TD Garden? And I just have one thing to say to that notion. Please, for the love of God, no. Not only because of the horrors that are following the Bruins and Celtics at TD Garden, and the last thing I need is more heartbreak in that building, but the Fleet also played 1 game at TD Garden this year. What was the outcome? 1-0 loss to the Montreal Victoire. So this is my message to the Bruins and Celtics. Now, I know for a fact they're not going to see this because they're millionaires and they don't care what some poor slep, who, by the way, just reached 60 subscribers. Thank you to you guys for that. But they're not going to pay attention to some small YouTuber who doesn't really have an idea. Well, here I am anyway. I'm going to tell you guys what I'm thinking. Get over it. Grow a set and find some courage at home and take the pressure off yourselves, because your fans are sick and tired of dealing with heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak at home and seeing other people celebrate on your court and on your ice. And my last message to everybody in those 2 organizations is very, very simple. How dare you force Boston sports fans to deal with just the Red Sox for a few months? How dare you? You force us to watch that team and not be able to cheer you. Although I encourage everybody to deal with the Boston Fleet and watch a good product. And also, hey, if you noticed, the New England Revolution have won their last 5 games at home at Gillette Stadium. So maybe check that out. But of course, everything's now on streaming services, so you might not be able to watch it. But that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you guys for joining me here for this little bit of a rant session, and something that I'm sure all of you are thinking about as to why, for some reason, 2 teams just can't seem to win at home. But let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Is the Garden crowd losing its edge, or is this just a statistical fluke? Or for some reason, do these players, are they incapable of winning at home? Let me know down in the comments. Like the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of 2026, and I'll see you next time right here on the Game Time Voice YouTube channel.